Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the April 3rd City Council meeting of the Glendale City Council. Today, the mayor is out of town. Therefore, as mayor pro tem for this month, I will be running today's meeting. May we have a roll call, please?
Council members: Najarian.
Here.
Quintero.
Here.
Weaver.
Here.
Mayor Friedman. Mayor pro tem Manukian.
Here. And today's flag salute will be led by Councilmember Quintero. Please stand.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing for this evening's invocation, which will be delivered by Mrs. Rebecca Holden, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Our dear Father in heaven, we are so grateful that we were able to be here tonight. We are so grateful for all of our many blessings, especially the fact that we live in a land of liberty, a land where we can express our opinions through democracy. And Father, we ask a special blessing on these proceedings tonight. We pray for those that have issues to be brought before this council, that they will be able to articulate with calmness and express themselves well. Father, we ask a special blessing on each of the council members. We are grateful for them, Father. We are grateful for their time. We are grateful for the sacrifices that they make to manage the business of our wonderful city. Father, we pray that each one of them this night will have thy Spirit, that they will be blessed with wisdom in the decisions that they make, particularly in the selection of a new mayor tonight, but also with all the business that needs to be transacted here. Father, we ask a special blessing this night on the people of Oakland. We pray that the citizens of that city will be able to heal from this terrible tragedy. We pray for the victims' families particularly. Father, we do ask for thy divine protection here in our city. We are grateful for all of our blessings, and we say these things in thy holy name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. Can we have the report of the city clerk, please?
The agenda for the April 3rd, 2012 regular meeting of the Glendale City Council was posted on Thursday, March 29, 2012 on the bulletin board outside City Hall.
Thank you. Next item is the selection of the new mayor of a new mayor. I will turn the meeting over to the city clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. The business before the council is the selection of a mayor. The chair will now, which I will be acting as chair for this portion, will now entertain nominations for office.
Mr. Clerk.
Yes.
I would like to nominate Mr. Manukian.
Okay. Are there further nominations for the office of mayor?
Yes, I'm interested in serving as mayor.
So just for the record, Mr. Quintero, you're nominating yourself, correct?
Yeah, I'm nominating myself.
Councilmember.
I'm nominating myself for mayor.
Okay. Are there any further nominations for mayor?
Only one left.
All right. In that case, if there are no further nominations, and I don't believe there can be, hearing no further nominations, we can proceed to a roll call.
Mr.
Can I,
Awesome.
Jarian can nominate. Should I nominate you?
No, I'm going to ask.
can I ask how
yes,
we vote?
Two procedural items. To answer Mr. Weaver's question, the council can either take...
What is the question?
The question was how to proceed with the vote.
There's different ways.
And we've done it two different ways, and so the council is free to choose which way. You can direct Mr. Kasakian to take the vote, or take the roll call, and then each council member can name the council member that they want to be the mayor, and it would take a majority of the votes cast to select a new mayor. The other alternative is for Mr. Kasakian to take roll of each nominee in order as nominated, and then the first candidate that reaches a majority vote would be selected mayor.
What is considered majority vote?
In this case, with the four council members here, if all four council members vote for a candidate, 3 votes would be a majority of the votes cast.
I'm in favor of voting for each individual nominations as they are nominated.
May I ask another question procedurally? Seeing as the mayor isn't here, should there not be a majority on any particular candidate, are the entire pool of candidates carried over till next week, or is it the top one or the top two, or does the floor open for candidate nominations all over again next week with a full council?
Good question. I think it's really the council's discretion to say they want to open up and request Mr. Kasakian to open up the nominations again if it gets continued to next week. There's no majority vote, and again, if there's a 2-2 vote this evening, or if there or no candidate is successful in obtaining majority vote, then it would, in either scenario, it would be carried over to next week. One other procedural thing, I don't know if Mr. Kasakian has received cards on this item, but we need to hear those.
There was one card submitted at the last minute. I'll be happy to allot that speaker 3 minutes before we take a vote.
Are there any questions? I mean,
Yeah, before the speaker, I'd like to do it with a full council here. This is the first time in the 11 years that I've been around that we haven't done it with a full council. So.
I had a couple of questions. Just to clarify, based on the rumors and stuff, Mr. Quintero, if you're elected mayor, you're not running again?
No, I will not run again for city
Got it.
council. That's right.
12 years would be enough. And I have to ask, with due respect to Mr. Manukian, so much rumors have come back to me that you plan to run for city treasurer. If you're elected mayor, you'll be running for treasurer at the same time?
I have not made that decision. I've always been clear to everyone that I am interested in that position, but at this point, there has been no
Okay.
decision.
I just want to clear it up because I've got
That's
a lot
fine.
of feedback that
That's okay.
you are running for treasurer.
I'm not running for treasurer at this point because we do have a treasurer.
Right. For one more year.
And the issue of treasurer may become moot
That's correct.
should the
Correct. I'm just trying to clear
charter
up rumors.
proposition.
You know how rumors go around this community. So I'm glad to clear it up. You're not running for it.
Well,
Yes.
if there's no other comments, I'd like to invite the speaker, the one card that we have, Herbert Milano, 3 minutes.
Mr. City Clerk, members of the City Council and City staff, my name is Herbert Milano. It is my hope that I can make some suggestions that may make this proceeding a little bit easier. The selection of a mayor is significant in as much as the mayor can guide the city manager and staff as to the agenda items that will be proposed and brought forward. And in that regard, it is an incredibly important position, other than the meetings that take place in front of the public and so on. One of the things that I have seen, and has been the implied rule, is that anyone who is running for city council, while a mayor, will receive, because of the way the voters are involved or the lack of involvement, will turn out to 1,000 to 2,000 additional votes just for the sake of, just for the fact that they are mayor, a sitting incumbent mayor running for office. It's a disadvantage to the rest of the candidates who are running for office, and it does not provide a fair and equitable platform for the election. It is also my suggestion that of the two individuals who are not running for city council, Mr. Manukian and Mr. Weaver, that we take a look at something very important that the city faces in the future, which is addressing the issue of the city finances. And it is my humble opinion that we need someone truly versed in the accounting and the finances of the city, and that you look towards Mr. Manukian as it regards to the guidance that a mayor needs to give and the instructions with regard to the agenda items that need to be brought forward, so that we can have a clear and definitive approach to addressing the problems, the financial problems that the city faces. I know that when you have this many potential mayors or individuals who want to hold the reins of mayor, we have to make some very tough decisions and make some suggestions, but I believe that in the spirit of equity with regard to the election, and in the interest of really addressing forthrightly the finances of the city, that Mr. Menukin be considered for this position. Thank you very much.
Okay, our first nomination.
Well,
I'm sorry.
let's talk
Go
about
ahead.
it a little bit.
Certainly. Chair will recognize Councilmember
I'm not sure if
Najarian.
Mr. Menukin wants to accept that endorsement by Mr. Milano. To me, it means nothing. He comes up here and tries to put on a happy face and a face of sanity when he addresses the council. But there's a completely different person when he writes his diatribes against perhaps each and every one of us except Mr. Menukin. It's not Mr. Menukin's fault, of course, but blatant electioneering in a Vanguardian publication each and every week, violating the IRS rules and regulations and restrictions on a nonprofit organization to conduct electioneering. Most recently, and perhaps I think it's appropriate that our Armenian community is here, Mr. Milano has taken upon himself to speak for you, Mr. Durakchin, Ms. Agahani, Artur, Mr. Aharonian, to denigrate me through you, through the Armenian community. So I hope that when the Armenian community listens to Mr. Milano, they can put his comments in the perspective that they should be taken in. And for me, credibility is everything when people come before us and talk about projects and issues. Mr. Milano has zero credibility with me in terms of influencing me in his suggestion as to who should be mayor. It was a fly buzzing around the room.
And I want to assure my colleague, Mr. Najarian, that he was not prompted by me to come and speak, and I've been subject to similar comments in the past, not currently, but in the past. And I understand, I understand the points that you are trying to make, and I do agree with the majority of it, actually. So.
Okay, if there are no other comments, none. The first nomination was for council member.
Oh, hold on, I'm sorry, Mr. Kasakian. There didn't seem to be a clear consensus from the council on the method. I know Mr. Menukin expressed his preference for the method.
I like the first option you mentioned.
Which is each council member vote for the candidate that they want. Darren?
No instant runoff?
No.
Okay. I could go with that method.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
with the methods.
Well, no, let me rethink that. I would prefer to go through each. My preference would be to go through each nomination and have a vote
Until someone reaches a
on that
majority.
regard. Would someone be restricted from only one vote then per candidate?
No. No. Well, what would happen is if the second method would be Mr. Kasakian would call roll for the nomination of Mr. Menukin, and then if Mr. Menukin received majority vote, he'd become the mayor. If not, then we would go to the next candidate.
And for the record, I believe, when we looked at it, I didn't have an opportunity to go too far back, but this is a method that has been employed previously. I think, was it the last time we used it, I believe?
To do one at a time?
One at a
yes.
time.
And I just want to let Mr. Ochoa know. This is usually one of our most exciting meetings with procedural give and take and a few things. So we hope the rest of our meetings won't go this way, but this is typically one of our more anxious meetings, I guess.
So I hear, yes.
No, I'll just say, go ahead.
There's two comments I've heard, unless Councilmember Menukin has changed his mind, for a preference for one way, and then two for another way.
Yeah.
Roll call is fine, I think. There's three of us.
Well, sorry, I
Just
hear
so we're clear
Mr.
on that.
Najarian and Mr.
So
Menukin.
go ahead, roll.
We're going to vote on candidate 1 through first, and then candidate 2.
You okay with that? Okay.
Okay? Is that the consensus? All right. I just want to make sure that we get this right. Councilmember Friedman, Councilmember Manukian.
Which nomination?
This is on the first nomination, which is Councilmember Manukian.
Yes.
Councilmember Najarian.
Yes.
Councilmember Quintero.
No.
Councilmember Weaver.
No.
Okay. The second nomination was for Councilmember Quintero. This will be the vote
Do
for
I get the
Councilmember.
campaign, say a few words before the...
Certainly.
Just kidding. Just kidding.
Councilmember Friedman. Councilmember Manukian.
No.
Councilmember Najarian.
No.
Councilmember Quintero.
Yes.
Councilmember Weaver.
Aye.
Okay. There was no clear majority on that one. Councilmember Weaver is the third nominee. This is a vote for Councilmember Weaver. Councilmember Friedman. Councilmember Manukian.
No.
Councilmember Najarian.
No.
Councilmember Quintero.
Yes.
Councilmember Weaver.
Aye.
I assume we'll be having the full council make this decision next week, correct?
Councilman Quintero, with all three motions going in a 2-2 vote, they would all be carried over unless someone wanted to make another motion, or if the council desired to take the vote by each council member voting for the candidate of their choice.
Yes.
That's another option. Otherwise, it would carry over to by our code, or by our charter, excuse me, it would carry over automatically to the next meeting.
Be the first
And
item of business.
You have 2-2 votes on all three of them, so technically all three of them would go over to the next meeting.
In some instances, and I'm not trying to pull a fast one on anybody, but as I said, this is one of our more exciting meetings. When there are a number of candidates, let's say 3 candidates up, each of us, let's say, has the force of 3 votes. If you count the force of 3 votes only upon your yes vote, and you were to count the votes for Mr. Manukian, that would be 6 votes. If you were to count for Mr. Weaver and Mr. Quintero, that would be 2 votes each, 4. So that would be a 6-4 win for Mr. Manukian.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's creative, certainly, but
Very creative, yeah.
under parliamentary
I
procedures,
agree with this.
each motion
Very creative, very creative.
each motion would need a majority vote. Or at
You've
least-
heard of
at
that
least-
type. You've heard of that type of voting. Maybe
Correct.
that's not
Sorry,
what we
it's
have
called
in
ranked
the
voting,
charter.
but yeah, essentially.
What's it called?
I think it's called ranked voting. I think.
voting. I'm just
But,
I believe Berkeley...
just
had-
throw that out there. Okay.
so absent any other motions, all 3 motions would carry over
Carry
to the
over
next
to
meeting.
next
Mr. Quintero said in my 15 years, we've never voted without a full council. Let the current mayor, who's still the mayor,
Well,
come back
wait a
from
minute.
South
Let me
Korea.
just throw this to you. What if the mayor were to come back, since she could vote yes more than once? What if she were to vote yes and yes for 2 of the others? It would be
The motions
2
would
or
have to
3
come
votes.
back as they were moved, and the first one that gets 3 votes would be the successful motion. So the first motion was for Councilmember Manukian. If we come back next week, that'll be the first motion.
Let that
Well, that would be
figure.
up to the clerk. I mean, do you see what I'm saying? I mean, if we could vote yes more than once,
Well, you can't.
what if I voted?
Well, you can't. I mean,
Yes, for-
in essence, once one motion carries a majority vote, then
We've got to clean this up. Why don't we address this procedure next time once we have a new mayor seated? Because we always have this
Well, this, Councilman,
issue, and
Councilman Quintero and Weaver are right, though. This is, as far as I know, the first time we haven't had a full council to address the issue.
It's too bad we don't have the system.
there's a
It's a good thing we don't have the system that's in place when Larry Zarian and Ginger Brandberg and
There's a note
Eileen and
here.
Sheldon were here. It succeeded. There was no,
This is my vote.
no politics involved at all.
Well, if you follow that system, I got the higher votes last election.
No.
I
The
and I was chair of redevelopment, so
the vote's taken.
So
we can retake the vote.
is the council consensus would be then to continue this over to the...
well, unless we want to reconsider. I mean,
I do not wish to reconsider. If Mr. Quintero does either.
At this point, if there's any other comments to wrap up, I don't believe that there's a consensus unless there's another motion to be entertained. The item will be carried over. Are there any?
I don't think
Closing
anyone's
comments or-
considering. I think it's time we continue. We move on.
Thank you.
and go to the
That
next
would
item.
make Councilmember Manukian the mayor pro tem
Today.
for
Continues to be
today
the
to continue the meeting.
This is a
until,
first,
yeah, to continue this issue of the reorganization until next week's meeting.
Thank you.
Item 3 on the agenda is presentation and appointments. At 3A is agenda preview for the meetings of April 10th, 2012.
Mayor Pro Tem Manukian, members of the City Council, for the Glendale Housing Authority for April 10th, we have one business agenda item, and that's a public hearing. Director of Community Development. This is regarding Section 8 Public Housing Agency Annual Plan for fiscal year 2012-2013. We have no business agenda items that afternoon for the Glendale Successor Agency. We do have a special public meeting of the Glendale City Council that afternoon to commence at 3 p.m. And this is public hearing, Director of Community Development. This is Stage 1 and 2 design review for Giggles Nightclub located at 215 North Brand Boulevard, and request for use variance for sale, service, and on-site consumption of alcoholic beverages. That evening for the City Council meeting at 6 p.m., we have a number of consent items. Chief of Police, Memorandum of Agreement for the City of Glendale's continued participation in the LA Regional Integrated Law and Justice Program. Director of Public Works, cost-sharing agreement between the City of Glendale and La Cañada Flint Ridge for Hampstead Road repairing. Director of Public Works, Waste Conversion Technology Project. We have 2 items under action. Chief of Police, this is AB 109, Public Safety Realignment Act. You'll have a report on that. Director of Community Services and Parks and Libraries, this is actually, no, we're not going to be doing this that day. This was the discussion of the role of the Glendale Arts and Culture Commission, which will be coming to you actually on the 17th and not on the 10th. And that concludes my report. Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, if I can just also add, today's my dad's 75th birthday, so happy birthday to my dad. He's 75 years young.
Wish him all the best. And item 3B, please.
Item 3B is proclamation designating April 2012 as Sexual Assault Awareness Month and April 25, 2012 as Denim Day in Glendale.
I will turn to my colleague, Mr. Arnajarian, to present the proclamation.
Thank you. Will the members from the Commission on the Status of Women and Christine Baboumian please come forward? I have a proclamation signed by Mayor Laura Friedman, and it reads as follows. Whereas the United States government has declared April as Sexual Assault Awareness Month, and the Glendale Commission on the Status of Women, in collaboration with Peace Over Violence, has declared April 25th, 2012 as Denim Day in Los Angeles. And whereas every 2 minutes someone in America is sexually assaulted, approximately 1 in 6 women are raped during their lifetime, and youths under 18 years of age account for approximately 44% of all reported rapes. And whereas with proper education, there is compelling evidence that we can successfully reduce the incidence of this physically and psychologically damaging crime. And whereas both Sexual Assault Awareness Month and Denim Day are intended to draw attention to the fact that rape and sexual assault are serious issues in our society. And whereas Sexual Assault Awareness Month and Denim Day were instituted to call attention to misconceptions and misinformation about rape and sexual assault, and the problem that many in society remain disturbingly uninformed with respect to issues of assault and forcible rape, allowing these crimes to persist and victims, survivors, to be re-victimized. And whereas the members of the Glendale City Council strongly support the efforts of the City of Glendale Commission on the Status of Women, in collaboration with Peace Over Violence, to educate people in our community about the true impact of rape and sexual assault and what can be done to prevent it. Now, Laura Friedman, the Mayor of the City of Glendale, hereby proclaims the month of April 2012 as Sexual Assault Awareness Month, and designates April 25th, 2012 as Denim Day in Glendale, and urge everyone to wear jeans on April 25th to spread the message that there is no excuse and never an invitation to rape.
Thank you. My name is Paula Devine. I'm the chair of the Commission on the Status of Women. Mayor Pro Tem Manukian, City Council, and staff, I'm happy to have my fellow commissioners here tonight to tell you about all the programs that the Commission has planned for the month of April. This is a very important month to us to raise awareness, and I would like to introduce first our ex officio from Clark Magnet School, Natalie Sarakanian.
Thank you, Chair Devine. Good evening, council members and staff. My name is Natalie Sarakanian, and I'm a senior at Clark Magnet High School. The City of Glendale's Commission on the Status of Women is proud to present Denim Day in Glendale, a campaign to raise awareness and educate the public about rape and sexual assault. This year, Denim Day is on Wednesday, April 25th, 2012. I am also pleased to announce that I have organized Denim Day to take place at Clark Magnet High School, and my fellow student ex officio, Jacqueline Alcazar, has organized it at her school, Holy Family. And with the collaboration of our community, wearing jeans on Denim Day, Wednesday, April 25th, we hope to break the silence surrounding sexual violence. Thank you. I would like to introduce my fellow commissioner, Mrs. Burns.
Commissioner Burns, you're out of uniform.
Commissioners must wear.
Overlooked. You're all out of uniform.
There you go. Now, you don't get a second if you already have one. Others.
Thank you. Thank you, Ara. Self-defense classes for women and girls. Our first self-defense class is full, so we'll just skip past that and suggest that if you wish to be part of the next one, it's Wednesday, April 25th, 6 to 8:30 p.m. at Glendale Community College. I think last year we all felt that these self-defense classes were excellent. A lot of problems are taken care of if women know how to deal with attackers. So now I'm going to turn this over to my fellow commissioner, Vache Touchen. Am I good?
Thank you. Excellent. Thank you. Thank you, and good evening, members of the City Council and staff. The YWCA of Glendale and the Glendale Commission on the Status of Women will be presenting Walk a Mile in Her Shoes. This is an international men's march to stop rape, sexual assault, and gender violence. It's going to be held Thursday, April 19th from 5:30 to 7 p.m. at the YWCA of Glendale, 735 East Lexington Drive. The Walk a Mile in Their Shoes event is being held for the first time in Glendale as an opportunity for men to lead the way, and I emphasize men to lead the way, in raising awareness about the serious causes and effects of sexual violence. All ages and both genders are welcomed. The Walk a Mile in Her Shoes goal is to get people talking about sexual assault. This is a very important issue. The march gives the community the opportunity to publicly demonstrate their commitment to preventing sexual violence. I encourage our community, I encourage all men to participate in this event, and I invite City Council members to be there. You don't have to wear stilettos, you could wear sneakers, you could wear sandals, but please participate. Thank you very much.
Anyone else being introduced? Or
They've all spoken.
staff? Christine, would you like to say anything?
No, the Commission puts on wonderful events to help raise awareness about sexual assault, so we hope that the community will join them in these events. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I want to say I've attended this event a number of times, and what's particularly interesting and striking is the testimonials sometimes when you have women who talk about their experiences. So it's absolutely important that everybody participate, as many as possible.
And we will have that after the walk is completed at 6:30 at the YWCA. There will be a reception,
Right.
and we will have speakers. Thank
And
you.
the self-defense classes, they're for ages
12 and up, women and girls. The first, as Commissioner Burns said, is full already.
the second one?
The second one is Wednesday, 25th. It's at Glendale Community College, 6 to 8:30 p.m.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. What is next?
Item C on the agenda is a proclamation designating April 2012 as Annual Commemoration Month.
And I will read the proclamation and call Ms. Zizette Mullins the podium, and I will ask all of my colleagues to present the proclamations to the different organizations that are here. Let me read the proclamation first, and then you can present the organizations that are working in the committee, the Week of Remembrance Committee that is chaired by Mr. Najarian. There is a proclamation by our mayor, and it reads, whereas the City of Glendale believes that cultural diversity is achieved when our entire community acknowledges that its wholeness is based on the unique strengths of each of its community members. Today we can no longer innocently harbor feelings of superiority and separatism in our society. And whereas the Armenian community has participated in and greatly enriched our city through contributions in business, arts, culture, education, and government, and whereas many in our community who are of Armenian descent lost a significant number of family members, belongings, and heritage in the genocide. The hurt is deep, and we look forward to a time when the tragedy will be universally acknowledged. And whereas we appreciate the efforts of the community volunteers in organizing the Week of Remembrance to commemorate and recognize April 24th as Armenian Genocide, and urge our representatives and elected officials in Washington, D.C. to do the same. And whereas we appreciate the efforts of the Glendale Unified School District and the Glendale Community College in educating our youth regarding the Armenian Genocide, we encourage these and other learning institutions to actively participate in the annual events of commemoration and remembrance, and to increase their efforts to educate our community not only about the Armenian Genocide, but all of man's inhumanity to man. In the words of Jorge Santayana, those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it. And now, therefore, Laura Friedman, Mayor of the City of Glendale, proclaimed the month of April as Annual Commemoration Month, and invite all members of the community to participate in the activities and events of the Week of Remembrance. So, Ms. Mullins, and I'll have my colleagues get up and make the presentation to the different organizations.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem,
Yes.
I'm going to go over the events and introduce the committee.
Go ahead.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem Panukian, council members, as you're aware, this month of April will mark the 11th annual commemorative events for the City of Glendale. These events were put together to remember and honor victims of the Armenian Genocide and the atrocities to mankind throughout history. This year's annual commemorative event is co-sponsored by various groups from the community and organizations, and it will be taking place at the Alex Theater on Tuesday, April 24th. The event will begin at 7 p.m. We are very fortunate this year to have two dynamic speakers. The first speaker is Honorable Jim Karagians, a member of the Canadian Parliament, and the second speaker is our writer and director of the movie Police, Eric Nazarian. We will also have musical performance by talented artists. Tickets will be available starting April 6th at the following location: the Alex Theater, the Americana at Brand, Glendale Community College, and also online if they go to the alextheater.org, and they will be able to obtain tickets online. The second event that will take place also during the Week of Remembrance is the Man's Inhumanity to Man. The event is going to take place on Thursday, April 26th at 6:30 p.m., and it will happen at the Central Library Auditorium. The top 3 videos, the winners of the top 3 short film competition, will be aired, and the producers will be recognized at the event on that evening. I'm pleased to announce that thus far we have received 6 entries, and they're all going to be judged and evaluated. So it's very exciting news, being that it's our first year that we have actually put out the contest for the community. In closing, before I introduce everybody, I just wanted to make sure that we inform the public that through the awareness and education and the commemoration of these atrocities, we seek to honor the millions who have perished and prevent the reoccurrence of these acts of inhumane from happening again in the future. At this time, I would like to introduce the annual commemorative event committees and introduce those that will be receiving the proclamation.
We have 5 organizations that are listed on this little piece of paper, but we have 4 proclamations.
We're supposed to have 5 proclamations.
We have the 5th.
We will provide the 5th to the
Yeah,
one organization.
I'm
Whoever
more
does
than
not receive it will certainly.
I can pick on Shahi, he won't mind. Yes, see, he looks like he agrees, AGBU.
What choice?
Yeah, he's easygoing. The first person I'd like to call, Christine Akajani, and well, actually 2 of them, Peter Darajan, representing ACA, Armenian Rights Council, Armenian Council of America. Come on up. And also we have, on behalf of the Armenian National Committee, Alan, come on up, Asatran. On behalf of the Armenian Rights Council, we have Mr. Viken Kachadorian. On behalf of AGBU, we have Shahi. And I also would like to invite the rest of the committee, Stephen, Artun, Ahmed, to please come up. And they're been on the committee for a long time, and Shahi represent AGBU. You can maybe get closer a little bit, look cozy in the middle.
Get too close.
Too close to each other. All right. It's okay to get a little happy there.
You're part of the committee.
I'll squeeze in here.
Thank you very much.
Before I conclude, while everybody's taking their seat, we also have the annual blood drive that is sponsored by the Armenian National Committee that will take place. They have been very supportive of the Week of Remembrance, and this year the blood drive will take place on Sunday, April 22nd at 10 a.m. It's going to go from 10 to 4 p.m. And to register, you need to go to the www.redcrossblood.org and enter the sponsor code ANC Glendale. And with the week of activities, that would conclude our week of remembrance for this year, for April. So I'm hoping everyone comes out and attend the Armenian Genocide and also the Man's and Humanity to Man event and donate blood.
Could you repeat the dates and the locations, please?
Sure. Starting with the Armenian Genocide, that's going to happen on April 24th at the Alex Theater.
Which is a Tuesday night. So instead of coming to the city council meeting,
or watching the city council meeting,
to the event, it's going to be very interesting because of
Yes.
Eric Nazarian.
Yes, our 2 speakers are dynamic. We're going to watch a clip of the movie Belize, and that's, from what I hear, it's an awesome movie, so we really look forward to have Eric Nazarian present his movie at the event. The second date is Thursday, April 26th, and that's going to happen at the Glendale Central Library Auditorium in the evening at 6:30 p.m. And then, of course, don't forget the blood drive. And the tickets will be available this Friday, so I encourage those that would like to have tickets reserved to go to the Alex or to send to check them online or go to any of the locations I mentioned earlier.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And thank you to all the organizations that are here every year. This is an important event for the Armenian American community, and it's a solemn occasion, but it's not an occasion that we look sadly on. It's an occasion to learn from, and that's what these events are meant to do, is to educate both the Armenians and our neighbors and our friends about events that happened over 90 years ago. And the comment that was made on that is listed on the proclamation by the mayor is certainly right on. If you don't learn your history, you're bound to repeat it. And this is, in my humble opinion, it's a humanity issue. It's not just an Armenian issue, because there have been many other genocides, and to a certain extent, this was used or was learned from by others to use it on others, to implement the same type of ethnic cleansing, murders to other ethnicities within Europe and as well as the Middle East. So it's an event that everyone can learn from, and it's certainly the movie clip that we're going to see this year. It certainly gives it a different twist from the producer, which is information from Turkey itself. So it's very interesting, and I'm looking forward to learning from it. So, Mr.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment. We started these commemoration events, was it 9 years ago or 10? 10.
I was the first chair, actually.
11, that's right. And I find it, very interesting that some of the same faces that worked on the event years ago, the committee, is still here with us. So we've come a long way, and very same people that participated years ago continue to participate, and generally every year it gets better in the sense that it's more educational, more on topic. We've had tremendous speakers throughout the years, and I encourage everyone to go to the Alex. It's quite easy to do this, and on a Tuesday evening it'll be particularly interesting and particularly easy to get there. So,
and Mr. Nigerian is chairing the committee, and
it is where I'm co-chairing with you, Mr. Manoukian. It's an hour-and-a-half program. We work very hard to keep it very interesting and very on point. We know that you have busy lives, and we don't want to drag this into the evening, so it's a very, very poignant evening with music, film, a member of the Canadian Parliament coming down to discuss the pressure that the Turkish government put on him when he tried to introduce, but was successful in introducing and passing, a genocide resolution, songs, some dance, just 90 minutes, and you can be home, to watch, I don't know what's on Tuesday night, Dancing with the Stars or whatever. I know we're always here. There's a big blank in our... but please come out. It's free. The committee works very hard to put just that right mix of entertainment and education and somberness, yet hopefulness in the event. So, a great event, April 24th, Tuesday, 7 at the Alex.
I just want to add on a similar note. My alma mater, USC, I just read, is cataloging over 400 Armenia documents for researchers to study the history down there. That's going to be a big thing when it comes in, to be able to go down and take a tour and see it, if they'll let you in to see it. But that'll do a lot to fill in gaps that may exist in the history and the atrocities that did occur. So I compliment my alma mater for taking this step.
thank you. And thank you to all the organizations again for coming and for all the work that you do to make this event successful. And it is successful every year. So thank you very much. And AGBU, my apologies. You will get a proclamation as soon as the mayor returns and the clerk prepares it. So thank you very much for coming. What is next, please?
Mayor Pro Tem and Council, next item is City Council and staff comments.
Comment, staff, City
well,
Council?
I want to talk about the Cesar Chavez event that was held last Saturday. There were at least 1,000 people in attendance, and I want to thank the committee and, of course, Suzette, that was sort of the head staff member. Mr. Ochoa did a great job in his keynote address, as well as Mr. Najarian. They did an excellent job up on the stage, up on the podium. But I think the big winner, the one that sort of did the best, was a 11-year-old sixth grader named Brittany Moreno. She was the winner of the essay contest, and she just did a wonderful job. She attends Pacific Edison Elementary School. Her dad's a graduate of Hoover High, so she's headed in that direction. But she's only a sixth grader, but she absolutely knows that she wants to go to college. When I talked about the UC system and how she has to work hard to get into the UC system, she looked at me. I mean, I didn't finish my comments, and she told me, I want to go to Harvard. So here's an 11-year-old that says she wants to go to Harvard. But she did a wonderful job in the essay contest. She won a little gift certificate and chose to spend her money at Barnes & Noble. So I was very impressed with Brittany Moreno and wish her a lot of luck, and think she's going to do fine in the coming years.
Very good. Any other comments? Staff? No. Next item, please.
Next item under consent are the consent items, including minutes following a routine and may be acted upon by one motion. A member of council or the audience requesting separate consideration may do so by making such request before a motion is proposed.
I'd like to pull 5E and F, please.
Any others?
Oh, those aren't. I'll move the remainder of the consent calendar.
Second.
There's a motion and second. Roll call, please.
Council members Najarian,
Yes.
Quintero,
Yes.
Weaver,
Aye.
Mayor Friedman, Mayor Pro Tem Manoukian.
Yes. Could you read 5E into the record, please?
Certainly. 5E is Director of Community Services and Parks regarding Measure R Highway Operational Improvement Funds for Glendale Narrows Riverwalk Project. E1 is a motion authorizing execution of a memorandum of understanding with Metro for the receipt of the $400,000 for construction of an outfall bridge connection Phase 1 and 2 of Riverwalk and related items, and $400,000 for concept level design and preliminary engineering of the LA River Bridge connecting Riverwalk to Griffith Park and related items, Phase 3.
Mr. Najarian, would you like a report?
Yes. No, I don't need a report, but my intention in pulling this was just to underscore the creative use of funding that we're able to put together for the Riverwalk project. We have had groundbreaking over a year ago, if I'm not mistaken. But in this particular project, we have wrapped in some Metro Measure R money. Measure R is that half-cent sales tax that the voters put into effect in 2009, typically used for highways and transit, but our staff and Metro staff was able to creatively apply $400,000 of funding to create these outfall bridges, which aren't the main bridges that we're really looking to get across the LA River, but these are over the channel and across another area where a special traverse is needed. So I just wanted to raise that, and I'll be happy to move 5E.
Second.
There is a motion and second. Roll call, please.
Council members Najarian,
Yes.
Quintero,
Yes.
Weaver,
Aye.
Mayor Friedman, Mayor Pro Tem Manoukian.
Yes. Read 5F into the record, please.
5F is Director of Public Works regarding safety enhancements at Grandview Avenue and Sonora Avenue at-grade railroad crossings in connection with spec number 3427. F1 is a resolution adopting plans and specs and directing the city clerk to advertise for bids. F2 is motion approving increase in contingency amount with ACOM USA Inc. for bidding and construction services in the amount of $85,000. F3 is motion authorizing execution of a memorandum of understanding with Metro for the receipt of Measure R sub-regional funds in the amount of $1,850,000 for the Grandview Avenue crossing improvements and $2,700,000 for the Sonora Avenue crossing improvements.
Thank you, Mr. Manoukian, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. Again, I wanted to highlight the efforts that the city is making and the council has. The direction that council has gone, and that is making the crossings at Grandview and Sonora those with the utmost latest and state-of-the-art in technology to create the sealed corridor. These are the crossings that go over those railroad lines into the Grand Central Creative Campus there. It is one step towards creating a quiet zone throughout that area in which I'm sure the residents of Pelanconi are impatiently waiting for so many years, as well as the businesses that front San Fernando and throughout. It's also funded by Metro, by MTA, by a unique pot of money where other areas of the city get dollars for the subway to the sea, the Expo line, the Red Line, the Gold Line. Our area, the Arroyo Seco region, received several $100 million to use for our highway operational improvements. And it was through the use of these funds that we're able to peel off a few million, about $2 million, Mr. Zern, something like that, close to 2.
This is for Measure R. You're
Yes.
referring. There's $4 million of Measure R in this project.
There's 4 million of Measure R. So we peel off as much. We try and use it judiciously, but we feel, the whole council feels, that this is an important project, a crossing that we have to make safe. It'll lead to less interface between locomotives and vehicles. That's the technical word, interface between locomotives and vehicles. It means there's going to be less fiery crashes and deaths by cars crossing the tracks. And it will also lead to a quiet zone, hopefully in the near future, as we knock down a few more crossing issues further down the road. So I'm very happy that we're moving on this, and I'll be happy to move 5F.
Second?
There is a motion and a second. Any additional comments? Roll call, please.
Council members Najarian,
Yes.
Quintero,
Yes.
Weaver,
Aye.
Mayor Friedman, Mayor Pro Tem Menuchyan.
Yes. Next item, please.
Next item would be oral communications. However, this is the 3-minute event announcement portion. We'll revisit the full 5-minute at the conclusion of all city business.
Thank you. First speaker is Janet Hamilton.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem Menuchyan, council members, and staff members. I am Janet Hamilton, and I am the second vice president for Seroptimus International of Glendale, and I am here with a number of my other members of our group to announce the 9th annual Bras for a Cause on April 28th at Oakmont Country Club at 5:30. We have many talented people in the community decorating bras. And this is a unique event, and we also have a live and silent auction. Rick Limo from the Americana will be our MC this year. We are a group of volunteer organization business women and professional women who work to improve the lives of women and girls in the Glendale area and in the world. This fundraiser provides donations to our 3 local hospitals, Verdugo Hills Hospital, Glendale Memorial, and Glendale Adventist. We also give a good portion of this fundraiser to many local organizations that benefit. We need your support. I have invitations here for you. This year, our theme is celebrating holidays, and we hope you will come out and support us because we do a lot for the Glendale community. Thank you.
Thank you. Would you like to pass, are those invitations you have?
Yes.
Is that a penguin you're holding?
We all received it.
This is one of the bras from a former year, decorated very creatively, as you can see, and it makes it a very fun event.
It's 0-0.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Next speaker is Rick Lemo. What do you have there in your hand?
I went to an all-boys Catholic high school, and we knew this was going to be the most exciting thing I ever did. First of all, I just want to go on the record and say that I am not here to nominate anyone for mayor. But if there are 2 or 3 people in the room who have not been nominated, I'd like you to stand up now.
Can we cut his time down? That's just disrespectful.
And I really appreciate you heckling me so that I feel like all other Glendale people you heckle that are up here. But seriously, or sort of seriously, the first modern bra received its patent in 1930 and was invented by a New York socialite named Mary Phelps. Very creative. It was designed in those days for one purpose: to help support women's breasts. Who'd have thought that within 100 years we'd have the need to have an event involving bras to help support women and men and everybody in this community fighting breast cancer. And even though Kathy Lefkowitz brought this wonderful event to the Seroptimus, and they have a lot of fun with it, and we're going to really have a lot of fun with it this year, I think it's important to focus on the reason behind it. I have not met anybody in the last 15 years that doesn't intimately know somebody, a sister, a mother, a grandmother, sometimes a brother, who has been impacted by breast cancer. And I know that most of you are probably not wearing a bra tonight. I'm wearing mine, thanks to Mrs. Devine. And I want to let you know a little bit about, we're going to have some fun this year, but I want you all to be able to join us. And you can, particularly if you're a man, you can wear your bra on the outside. So, for example, because holidays is our theme. So if we're talking about Christmas, you could have a couple of Santa's beards. You could have a couple of Christmas trees if you are so inclined. Okay, for the 4th of July, of course, anybody could have sparklers. I'm Italian, so I'd suggest Roman candles. On Valentine's Day, 2 well-placed hearts, or maybe cupids if you're creative. St. Patrick's Day, I don't know that anybody's going to wear anything other than shamrocks. And Halloween, of course, 2 well-placed pumpkins. Nonetheless, I hope you will join us on the 28th of April. It will be certainly a lot of fun. But when you think of all the nonprofit organizations in our community and all the different fundraisers, this one truly is different. And so if you're a man, I'd invite you to bring your spouse. If you're a woman, bring your husband or a significant other if you're not married. But by all means, let the community wrap their arms around this, because it will help all Glendale hospitals fight breast cancer through the Seroptimus. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Well said. Mr. Mark Moss. Mark? Followed by Leon Mayer.
Hello, everybody. My name is Mark Moss. This is my first time here in front of you guys. I'm here because I would like to invite everybody for this event, Sunset Film Festival, May 12th, from 12 to 6 p.m. We're going to have this event, Film Festival. I saw that Glendale, there is no any film festival here. I saw some in Burbank, Los Angeles, surrounding area like Pasadena. And because I moved here 1 year ago, and I'm in love in this city, so I decided that why not here? The event will be here in Glendale Public Library Auditorium. And this is for free for everybody, so there is no tickets. Everybody can come. The selection of the movies, we have film from Bulgaria, we have film from Peru, many films from United States, and there is no cursing, so everybody can come with small guys and girls, and I think that this event will be next year and next year and next year. We will see. So again, Sunset Film Festival, May 12th, Saturday, from 12 to 6 p.m. at Glendale Central Library. And this event is open for the public, which means free. Everybody are welcomed, so please come. We have 250 seats available, So it will be a very nice event for everybody. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Leon Mayer.
Evening, Mayor Pro Tem Manoukian, members of the council and staff. My name is Leon Mayer. I'm here on behalf of the Friends of the Glendale Library. And I want to give everybody a heads up for tomorrow night, 7 o'clock at the Central Library. Parking is free. You get validated by parking over at the Maryland structure. And we're going to take a last look at Independent Voices. Independent Voices is going to be a panel of authors who are self-published. They've published their own books. They'll tell you how they did it, why they did it, and it'll be very interesting with what's going on there as far as the variety of the people who will be there. We're going to have, for instance, two speakers who are Glendale News Press and Burbank Review writers. We're going to have somebody there who is a lady mystery writer, Lori Stevens, and then we're going to have somebody who happens to have been a Democrat, and his name is Dean Hartwell. He'll be there too, and I'll be moderating that event. So I've talked about it before, and I think that's enough of what I've said. So the other thing I want to talk about tonight is probably just as important, if not more important. We're spending some time in April commemorating and pushing forward the Friends of the Glendale Library. We need more members of the community to join the Friends of the Library. The Friends of the Library, beside the program that I chair, we have a book nook where we make books, good books, almost new books, and sometimes new books at reasonable prices, giveaway prices, there at the library. We also have the children's room where we support a lot of activities at the children's rooms. And I know people in the community who come to the library just as often as not, they bring children with them. And we work with the children, and we have programs for the children. And then we have the sales of books, the book sales at the rear of the library occasionally during the year. So think about joining the Friends of the Library. If you join, it only costs $10 for seniors or students, and then for families, $20, $40 for organizations, etc. So please consider, when you come to the library, get a little more information about the Friends and how to join us. Thank you very much.
Thank you. What is next, please?
Next, on the business agenda, adoption of ordinances. At 7A is ordinance amending Section 2.30 of the Glendale Municipal Code 1995, adding an economic development program. This was introduced by Councilmember Quintero, March 27th.
Okay, I introduced the ordinance. I'm going to ask Mr. Garcia. Having introduced the ordinance...
Is your mic on?
Yeah. Yes, having introduced the ordinance, I'd look at the provision at O, LMNO, and is that something that we could drop if the other council members agree?
Councilman Quintero, yes, as long as all the changes are germane and are not more expansive than
right,
the ordinance introduced, then you're fine.
That's just the name, Local Economic Development Agency, or LEDA. Up to, the clause reads, well, let me read the whole thing. Allow for the formation of a local economic development agency, or LEDA, to carry out the economic development program activities up to and including the purchase and condemnation of real property, if and should statutory authority be granted to form a LEDA to undertake such activities. I'd like to just drop that.
If that's your motion, I'll second that for discussion.
Why is that?
Yeah, I need to know what
well,
I think is Mr. Quintero.
Let me add another amendment motion, and we can discuss them together. I would like to move that we eliminate item J, which gives the city the authority to issue bonds or other forms of debt consistent with state law. Can I get a second on that?
Second. Well, I don't know if I can.
I think somebody, when the time
Second.
comes, if you want someone make a motion on the entire ordinance with the two changes, then we can proceed in that manner.
So my point is, let me just explain, if I can jump ahead of you, Mr. Quintero. I fully support the efforts to create a economic development, not redevelopment, component of our city that has the ability to do these items which would help develop business, create business, and help businesses thrive throughout the city. I am, however, opposed to I'm very much afraid of creating a new redevelopment agency. So in that regard, the powers to issue bonds and other forms of debt at this point leave me a little bit, I don't want to say scared, but a little bit skeptical that now is the time that we should approach this. Should the time ever come that it is appropriate, I think we can take it up at that point. But I want to make sure that we don't create an expectation that this new ordinance is going to require us or invite us, if nothing else, to issue new bonds for debt, especially in light of our fiscal situation.
Hey, before we go to Mr. Quintero's, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, can staff respond to that?
Sure.
There are probably any number of instances where issuing debt might make sense given the final shakeout of an economic development program, but we are very sensitive to Council's directive. If that ever came to pass, if the state did establish an economic development framework for us to go further into where that was appropriate, we would just come back to you and outline the process then. So striking it from this local ordinance is completely agreeable.
Okay.
Well, I think this ordinance is right on target because I think we have to get going tomorrow in terms of economic development, and I think we have the right team with the new city manager and Hassan. But these two provisions, I think, are a bit much, and I think it's a little bit, well, for sure the bonds don't, the ability to bond doesn't appeal to me at all. That goes for Glendale Water and Power, et cetera, et cetera. And I think that last provision is pretty much the same way in terms of the condemnation. I mean, this is something that in the future may be of interest to the council, but I don't think it's necessary.
Is it the condemnation of property that you're concerned about, or
right
purchase and condemnation?
Right.
Because creating an agency called LIDA means really you can call it anything you want, but the powers that you're concerned about, condemnation.
But staff respond to that one too.
By the same token, it's the same, really the same response, the same argument. If the state does just begin to classify economic development outside of what used to be the Health and Safety Code as a public benefit wherein you can condemn property, then we would like to be able to have that flexibility if council so chose, but that's not here in the foreground. So if council wants to strike that provision, that is completely fine.
Okay.
Right. Okay, so with those two, with J and O being not part of the ordinance, I'll make the motion to.
Okay. Just for the record, so item J will be deleted of section 2.3030, and subsection K will be renumbered J, and then KLM, and then subsection O will be deleted as well.
Okay, is there a second?
There was.
There was. I was just clarifying.
There was?
Councilmember Najarian seconded.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Najarian?
Yes.
Quintero?
Yes.
Weaver?
Aye.
Mayor Friedman? Mayor Pro Tem Manoukian?
Yes. Next item, please.
7B is an ordinance adding Chapter 4.46 to the Glendale Municipal Code 1995 relating to the establishment of community benefit districts in the city of Glendale. This was introduced by Councilmember Weaver on March 27th.
Okay, Mr. Weaver.
There's no comments. I'll move 7B.
Second.
I'm sorry. There was a card on 7A. I don't have one for 7B.
For me?
I only have one card.
I believe the only card I received, no, actually, Ms. Hammond is correct. It was handed in with an oral communications card. There was a card for 7A. I believe.
Yes.
And I thought it was 7B, and there's another card for, well, one card for 7B.
Okay, Mr. Mohill, my apologies for skipping this. Would you still like to speak
Let
on
me
7A?
clarify. Mr. Mohill, was your request to speak on 7A or 7B?
I'll move for reconsideration on 7A. I mean, do we want to open it up and let him speak? And
Sure, yeah, I think it's the
I
way
would
way.
like- If you still would like to speak, you can speak on the item. 3 minutes, please.
So we need a vote for that,
Yeah,
right?
just
To
quickly get a
reconsider.
motion to reconsider.
I'll move
Okay.
to reconsider.
Is there a second?
Second by Mr. Quintero.
Okay. Roll call.
Reconsider.
Council members Najarian?
Yes.
Quintero?
Yes.
Weaver?
No.
Mayor Friedman? Mayor Pro Tem Menuchyan?
Yes. Mr. Mohill.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, Mr. Menuchyan. Name is Mike Mohill. Thank you, council members. My only concern is this thing about a debt, about bonding. You know, we went through redevelopment agency, and that bothers me. How much money do we have right now in redevelopment? It's bonded, that we have a debt, an obligation. I don't want us to go down that road again. There was a time in my life in Glendale that Glendale was solvent. We even had a surplus, and we never did any municipal bonds, no bonds at all. And now, in the last several years, wherever I go, everybody's talking about let's have a bond. Well, a bond is a burden on our children. Is that fair, council members? That our children have to suffer because we can't make good policy? You know, I don't know about you, but I only spend based on the amount of money I have coming in. Cash and carry. Right now, when you keep, it's like going to the bank and borrowing money. We don't need to do that anymore. Let's put those days behind us. Thank you. My name is Mike Mohill.
Thank you, Mr. Mohill. We took that section out of the ordinance, so we did not vote on it. We are discussing 7B. There has not been a vote taken. There's been a motion and a second.
Let's go back to 7A.
We have to do 7A.
Vote on
Okay.
7A.
So I'll move 7A as previously stated, as amended and stated.
Second.
Motion is second on 7A. Roll call, please.
Council members Najarian?
Yes.
Quintero?
Yes.
Weaver?
Aye.
Mayor Friedman? Mayor Pro Tem Menuchyan?
Yes. And 7B, as I said, has been read into the record.
And there was one card submitted.
Was there was a motion and a second, if I'm not mistaken?
Yes, there was. The motion was made by Councilmember Weaver and seconded by Councilmember Quintero.
Any questions by council members? We do have a speaker, Margaret Hammond.
Good evening, Your Honor, Pro Tem, members of the council, staff, and audience. My name is Margaret Hammond. I would like, if you could give me clarification. Maybe I misunderstood this. But reading it, or somebody told me that this was going to be like that the different areas in the city or districts, whatever you want to call them, could enforce or not enforce, but require assessments on homeowners for such things as private security. Is that true? Is that what this particular ordinance means? I'm just asking questions because I didn't.
No, that's not true.
Well, finish your comments. And then
Well, that's what I'm asking. My comments would be, if that's what it is, then I think it's wrong.
Okay.
Because in my opinion, any fee assessments, once started, never seem to get repealed. And indeed, they get enlarged and spread even more, requiring organization. For instance, if you have if this is what's true, the idea of having private security, somebody has to pay them. There has to be somebody in charge of the money. And the whole thing requires an organization to do that, even though it's done by that particular district or community or whatever you want to call it, like a homeowners group. I'm against that. For one thing, I know from having owned condos, it's a pain in the neck, because once those fees come in, assessments, they never seem to end. And the people that are in charge feel that, oh, well, we need benches out along the highway or whatever, and they go ahead and just keep putting assessments on for that type of unnecessary expense. Now, if I'm wrong, okay, but that was what I heard. Matter of fact, I heard something last night at our homeowners coordinating council, and that sent me into orbit, because I think that's wrong. If people don't realize what they're getting into, if they've never owned a condominium, let me tell you, it's a horror story, what can happen with condo fees and so forth. I'm facing them right now. So that's all I want to know. Is that what this means?
Thank you.
And if so, that's my objection to it. Thank you.
Mr. Ochoa?
Yes, sir. It can be a little bit complex just because of the types of things that this assessment district, assessment districts, if formed, could pay for. These are focused in commercial areas. Now, there are some in like downtown, for example, where there are residential properties in commercial areas. But what we're talking about are commercial benefit assessment districts for businesses to pool their money, if they so choose, by assessing themselves to pay for any number of things like litter removal, or in some cases they could do security, but that would be a decision of the folks that pay the assessment. But it isn't analogous to an HOA. This is a business improvement district, effectively.
Okay. Any questions or discussion?
I want to make sure, does the speaker understand that? Okay, good, so that we don't have to keep hearing it. It's obviously a commercial enterprise. It'll be up to the property owners of that particular district to vote up or down, and it has absolutely nothing to do with residential neighborhoods in the city of Glendale.
Any other discussion? There's been a motion, a second. Roll call, please.
Council members: Najarian?
Yes.
Quintero?
Yes.
Weaver?
Aye.
Mayor Friedman? Mayor Pro Tem Manoukian?
Yes. Next item, please. At 8A.
At 8A is City Attorney regarding cancellation of the April 24th, 2012 council meeting due to the week of remembrance events and commemoration of the Armenian Genocide. 8A1 is a motion canceling meeting.
8A1.
Second.
There's a motion, a second. Discussion. Roll call, please.
Council members: Najarian?
Yes.
Quintero?
Yes.
Weaver?
Aye.
Mayor Friedman? Mayor Pro Tem Manoukian?
Yes. Next, we're going back to oral communications.
Yes, this is a 5-minute portion. Discussion is limited to items not part of this agenda. Each speaker will be allowed 5 minutes. Council may question or respond to a speaker, but there will be no debate or decision, and the matter may be referred to staff through the city manager for an investigation and a report.
Thank you. First card is Joan Hardy, followed by Mike Mohill.
Good evening, Pro Tem, City Council, and Glendale staff. My name is Joan Hardy, and I'm the president of the League of Women Voters of Glendale Burbank. And I'm going to speak fast tonight because you guys are going to have a nice, brief meeting, hopefully. I'm here tonight in response to last week's City Council meeting decision to place a ballot measure that would ask voters if they prefer an appointed treasurer to an elected treasurer. And our understanding is that this will be on the April 2013 local election ballot, which is 1 year away. The League would like to offer our services in creating a well-balanced forum that would serve as an opportunity to educate the voters of Glendale about this topic. Our League is probably best known for our candidate forums. However, we also have many years of experience in doing citizen education forums. In the recent past, we have held forums in Glendale and Burbank on campaign finance reform, the Americana at Brand Project, and open government. We feel that a panel of experts on this topic of elected versus appointed city treasurers, which would give basic information on the role and duties of a city treasurer and discuss the pros and cons, would help voters in making an informed decision on this important topic. There is time. I mean, the election isn't for a year, but I just wanted to take this opportunity to remind you that the League is here, and we have a lot of experience in putting forums together about this subject matters like this, and we would like the opportunity to work with you in creating a well-balanced forum. Thank you.
Thank you. Mike Mohill. Followed by Robert Yagubimashi Masihi.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, Mr. Manoukian, and council members. My name is Mike Mohill. Last week, the city presented one of the best magic shows I have seen. The magician was Glenn Steiger, manager of Glendale Water and Power, GWP. And the magician assistants were 4 out of 5 council members. Mr. Steiger in the past spoke about rate hikes, but last week he instead used the words revenue increases, words used to confuse the public. GWP needed the revenue to maintain the infrastructure of the water department, and council needed money for the bloated city payroll. Mr. Steiger said the water department needed 1% revenue increase this year, followed with 2% next year, then 4% and 5% the following years. But the real rate increases will be much, much higher on the residents, more than 12% after 4 years. According to the Wildham report, under the executive summary section, page 1, Glendale has been raising the water rates in the past 10 years on average 5.9%, from 2001 through 2011. This is a total of 59% water rate increase for the last 10 years. Any size water line going from the water meter into a residential home will have a fixed cost according to the GWP. The fixed cost will be increased from 15% to a maximum of 30% after 4 years. This will guarantee a hefty revenue stream for the GWP, no matter how much the public will conserve water. No need to worry about another drought, folks, because the effect of this inefficient GWP. I could show the public the calculations, but I would rather have our council members Friedman, Najarian, and Weaver present a PowerPoint to the public, as they voted for this ordinance and not I. This whole rate tier structuring was designed to confuse the people and sliding through the back door another tax to the ratepayers by paying more money for their utilities. After 5 years of higher and higher rate increases, homeowners will be paying on average $800 to $1,000 every month for water and electricity. Future utility bills will come monthly rather than every other month. The magic show is the monthly billing, as it is a sneaky way to make the utility bill appear less expensive. But at the end of the year, our utility bills would be more costly. After receiving thousands of dollars in campaign monies and endorsements from the union PACs, council members Friedman, Najarian, and Weaver all voted for the rate increases. Last week, looking for votes in the coming 2013 election, incumbent candidate Councilman Frank Quintero became a more clever politician than Mr. Najarian, who last month bemoaned the political situation. About 3 weeks ago, Mr. Quintero liked the idea of a tier rate structure, but could not vote on the proposed rate increases because they were just too high for him. Last week, even with the proposed water rates were lowered, he still voted against the rate increases. Nevertheless, Mr. Quintero always showed his support to the unions by approving millions of dollars being transferred from the GWP into the pockets of his union supporters. Councilman Frank Quintero is a true politician, speaking from both sides of his mouth. Let's not worry, according to Mr. Weaver. If you can't afford living in Glendale, just move out. Already, according to public records, thousands of residents have done so. Council members, where is Glendale in which I was raised? When Glendale was fiscally sound and had a surplus, we lived within our means. There was never a need for municipal bonds to finance the needs of the city and place the future burden on our children. The magic show will move forward as ratepayers have no choice but to pay for the mistakes of this council and previous ones. But the voters will have a choice come April 2013 when we can vote out of office the current incumbents.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you. My name is Mike Mohill.
Robert-
And here is a copy of the executive
Mr. Mohill,
summary.
please hand it over to
And
the
I
city.
will give it to council for you,
Robert
for,
Yagubi Masihi.
for the record.
Followed by Aram Kazazian.
Sure.
Good evening. My name is Robert Yagubi Masihi. I live in Glendale, Cameron Place for 23 years. I'm here tonight to talk about the city, what city is doing for the resident in Glendale. The point is the signs they put on the sections, and the point is the parking permit, and the point is about the sign they put on the streets. It's back to 10 years ago, when I was just driving in Monterey to Burbank to Brand Avenue. When I just turned, it was almost 10 years ago in the New Year's, when I turned right, it 5 miles, when it was red, suddenly one police officer stopped me, said, okay, you turn right in when it was red. I said, okay, what's the problem? He said, this sign, it says you should not turn right when it's red. I said, can I go and check it? He said, no, it's 1 year ago, maybe more than 1 year ago that we put in that sign there. Okay. Actually, what I remember, there was a one truck that it doesn't show. I see the sign after when I came back, because that day I could come back immediately. I had a job, I had to go. When I came back, I saw one sign before intersection. When I came to the city, the guy said it's the responsibility for the, not for us, for the freeway that they put a sign. I said, it's a Monterey. When I come out from the Brand and turn right to Goody Avenue, it's a street. They said, no. When I called Caltrans, they said, no, it's a street. It's a city job. They pass to city to Caltrans. After 2-3 weeks, I saw two signs, one in the section, this side, another one the other side. That's a right it has to be. After 2-3 weeks, I paid $300 almost my ticket. I said, when city doesn't do right thing, right job, put sign in section that I do not give tickets money. Why I have to pay? That's fine, and not the city. You know, when the city doesn't do right thing, why the resident are to have to pay the fine? It's just one thing that that time I couldn't go and take that money. I paid that money anyhow. This time, after 23 years, I'm living in Cameron Place. Exactly close to my apartment that I'm living, there was a big area that's, they were living 3 persons, one couple with their daughter. This time they make a big building that might be 10 units that they're living maybe 300, 500 people there. They have parking for their car. But our street, the Cameron Place, there is no any place that we can park there. First, one reason is in the morning there is 2 big buildings in the Monterey before Brand. One is Nestle, the other one is, I don't know, Citibank or something. The employer, they come and just that employee park their car in the street. I'm not in charge to stop them, don't park there. If I'm going to park in the Jackson, that it's Jackson and the Louise is just, Cameron is between Louise and Jackson, I got ticket for $46 maybe 2 weeks ago. When actually I went to the police station, they said, why I have to these tickets? They said, you park in the sign, it says you have to park just 2 hours. It says 2 hours. At 2 hours, I changed my car another spot. When I changed my car, police said, you just can park once a day per block. I said, okay, I'm living in this Cameron Place. How can I just go 3 blocks for 10 times per day? You know, the Jackson is close to me. There is a lot of parking place, but the Cameron is hooked. So there is no any place for parking. They said this law that we cannot do anything. I said, okay, second things. Why they have to sign? They put once per block so small that 2 hours too big. Why they put important things big, same as 2 hours? There's enough place on that sign. Because that confused me, And instead of put an attention and don't park there, and first come and talk to, I have to pay tickets, then come and start to talk to the police station or the city. That's another problem. And if the sign be big, for example, once per block per day, I do not park there. I go 3-4 blocks away, go to police station, comes to the city, talk to them before I get that fine. That's another point. Except that. The third thing is when I come city, I said I need parking ticket for my street, Cameron Place. They said the code says, that guy said in the city, the code says you have to go knock the old gate.
Your time is up. Thank you very much for your comments. We will respond to you after everyone has spoken.
Okay, no problem.
Okay. Thank you very much. Mr. Aram Kazazian.
Good evening. My name is Aram Kazazian. First item I'm going to cover is regarding the fire line charges that was imposed. At the meeting, there's some dispute on that. The report said that they had taken in assumption that every single building with fire line will be on fire all the same time in the city, and every fire hydrant will be open the same time. And that was confirmed by Peter Kovanas that night. He stated that we have to have all our pumps running at the maximum capacity to discharge the water to every fire line that's open. That means every fire line that's open, that means every 860 buildings that have fire lines has to be on fire. The building's got to be a fire, and has to be a major fire that all the sprinkler systems has to be open. And every fire hydrant with the hoses has to be connected to it and try to put fire entire city, all of it at the same time. That's the way the pricing was based upon, that the pumps had to be large enough, big enough to run all these things at the same time. They never took in consideration that almost it's an impossibility unless we're at war maybe, that all these buildings can be open, wire lines can be open at the same time. So this is a kind of a conflict in there. I'm trying to look into that a little bit more, but it's not possible. If you have one line of a 6-inch going to a fire hydrant that's used, that doesn't mean that the pumps have to be capable of the entire city being on fire at the same time. That's why I understand it was confirmed by him. So nobody from there has ever called me to even talk to me, as I was told I would be. So that's kind of a concerning situation I have. And thank you very much for Rafi for standing for the people and asking the questions for the people, for this community. We do appreciate that. Everyone appreciates that. And thank you for not voting on the matter. And thank you, Mr. Contero, for not voting on the matter. I believe you saw what's going on too. We thank you very much for you have done that. Let me go back to, I understand today that we had lost some more money on the DWP on hedging. I don't know if you remember many years ago when the hedging issue came up, I came over here and spoke. I said that's kind of a very delicate, situation that I don't think we need to fool around with the public money on stocks. As there was a letter that I brought over here to City Council and said it was from the Chamber of Commerce where Mr. Steiger had worked. They said, thank you, City of Glendale. Thank you very much for taking him away from us due to the fact that we lost in very short time that he came to our city as the manager of the Department of Water and Power. We lost $50 million. And I brought over that letter and surfaced here and showed that letter, which I was provided with that letter. So the hedging is not a very good idea, and I hope to see maybe we don't lose any more money, and maybe we need somebody more capable in there to in buying the stocks and bonds from on the market, that we don't lose any more money, then that money is going to come back, and we're going to charge us more money to pay for the losses we had on somebody's mistake. Thank you very much, and I hope I can get an answer on that water. If that's not the case, if only one line is there, that's a different situation. Then all the rates will be changed. Then, thank you.
Thank you, Herbert Milano. Followed by Margaret Hammond.
Thank you very much, Mayor Pro Tem, and members of the City Council and City staff. My name is Herbert Milano. There is a proposal now at the Glendale Water and Power to create a new utility bill that would be significantly more understandable to the general public than what we currently receive. There are charges within the bill that are difficult for the general public to understand. And I could even challenge some of the council members to try to explain many of the various different sections of the bill and what they actually represent. What the bill doesn't do, it doesn't empower the utility user to take control of their bill. And it also hides some significant information that I think the public should know. I just sent you an email. I figured that you got your iPads on a copy of this particular utility bill that I presented as a suggestion to the Glendale Water and Power 2 years ago. The bill allows for multi-language, an easier way of reading the information by section, but most importantly, it gives you and breaks the information down on a daily usage and daily cost, which allows us to do comparisons and allows us to be able to engage perhaps school children, to be able to participate with the schools and allow some initiatives to do some environmental impacts in which they can get involved. But there's a section in this bill that I'm suggesting that may have some opposition from the Glendale Water and Power, and that's the following. The section on taxes and fees generally provides for the cost of the utility users tax. What it does not show is the hidden tax, the portion of the utility users tax that in effect is another 10%, which is the transfer to the general fund. The general fund is the main fund from where payroll and benefits and pensions and other general expenses of the city are derived, and the funds come from the Glendale Water and Power into the general fund. So for all intents and purposes, it's like another utility users tax. The transfer is 10%, so in effect we have a 17% utility users tax. So when we compare ourselves to other cities, we have to make a recognition, and it is my belief that if we aim to be transparent and clear to the general public as to what we're doing, that should be included in a properly laid out utility bill. The second item that is a problem is the section concerning fixed rates. As someone just stated recently, and as it was presented to you, that a fixed rate of a 30% amount is a rate of which the customer has no control. That means that if someone goes on vacation and uses absolutely zero water, their bill will continue to come in at a significant amount. And for anyone who has any kind of background in cost accounting, I could tell you that it's a totally unnecessary activity, that you can take those fixed costs and distribute those through the amount of water usage expected, or a minimum amount throughout the whole city. The City of Los Angeles does that. There is no reason why we cannot do it the same way within the City of Glendale. Ideally, we should be able to do the same thing with regard to electricity. Because eventually, even if a person goes on vacation, they'll come back and they will use the utility. Somebody has a vacant home or a vacant apartment, they'll eventually have to move to actually get them rented out. They want those assets to be income generating. And then there'll be somebody else who's going to have a vacancy or going on vacation. What's important here is that if we truly are committed to a sustainable city, if we truly are committed towards reducing our consumption of water and electricity, then you need to empower the residents and the utility users to be able to reduce their water consumption and electric consumption such that they can see 100% effect of their efforts on the bill. That means if you use zero electricity, a zero bill. If you don't use any water, then a zero bill as well. And you can still account for those fixed costs and basically generate the income. But the difference is that you really, truly live the concept of sustainability and not just simply pay lip service. It is my suggestion that the new task force be empowered to look at ways of removing those fixed charges from all of these bills.
Thank you, Mr. Morgan.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Morgan Hammond, followed by Harry Zamos.
Good evening again, Mayor Pro Tem, members of council, staff, and audience. My name is Margaret Hammond. Couple of things. Again, bulky item pickup, 818-548-3819. Free pickup, which helps the quality of life in our city tremendously, not to have all that trash laying around. And then secondly, we beat up on Mr. Zern over there about the San Fernando Road. And I was looking at it again recently. I go up and down. I use it all the time. And it's beautiful. I mean, it really looks terrific. The colors and the way it's planted. And I know that the trees did get a lot of them broken off and smashed during that windstorm. But I think you're trying to replace them. I can't go slow enough to always see what's going on. And I did see a group there cleaning out along that piece. So have a look at it. It really looks great. It's such a pathway of our city, north and south, along San Fernando Road. It looks really great. And I see that under, up here, I guess, under D, 5D, that we're going to have some money for replacement trees. And I know on my street there were 4 or 5 planted where there's never been a tree in 52 years across the street from me because it's a vacant lot, and it's going to be really nice. Thank you very much again. And now tomorrow night, our poster contest that is that the Clean and Beautiful, your beautiful Clean and Beautiful committee, along with Neighborhood Services, we're having that poster contest, and the winners will be awarded their prizes. And if any of you have been there, the kids just get so excited, and it's such a big event. But to them it is, because they worked on those posters, and they've been waiting to hear how they came out on it. But the best thing of all is it teaches them to be good citizens, right from 5 years old all the way through up into the teenage mid-school. They do that feeling, have that feeling of being part of the city of Glendale. And why they like living here, they like the parks, they like all the different libraries. That's what they say in their posters. And they value that as living a good way of living in Glendale, having a good life. Many of them say, we just love living in Glendale. And these are little ones when you talk to them at this event where all these kids go. Now, one of my pet peeves and raves and angers is about people talking on their lousy phones while they're driving. And you know what? We ought to all be putting pressure on the auto dealers to have something that will cut off those phones. Once you're in that car, bang. No more texting, no more looking down, texting while you're going. I'm sitting at a light on each side of me. They're talking on their phones. Unbelievable. And then, of course, the idiots that cross the street without looking while they're on their phone. They just walk, boom, right across the street. I don't get it. I mean, we lived for how many years I did without a phone. I still have one for an emergency if I'm out on the road. Other than that, I never use it. I think it's a dumb thing to go around with that thing stuck in your ear. And very antisocial as far as I'm concerned when people take it in restaurants and other places and talk on it and cause disturbance. So that's my thinking. But again, as I say, we're going to have that poster contest tomorrow night, and with the help from backing from Neighborhood Services, the people, they work real hard, and it's a really nice event, refreshments, and just seeing the faces on the kids and their parents and grandparents when they get those awards. It's really something. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Harry Zamos.
Council, my name is Harry Zavos. At the last two council meetings, I addressed the Wildem model adopted by the city that frees up $2 million of water fees to be transferred to the general fund by the electrical works. It does so by changing the sharing of GWP expenses from the 75% electric, 25% water to 68% electric, 32% water. This shifts $2 million from electrical onto water, and because Prop 218, unlike water, doesn't prohibit it for electric, the $2 million electric savings can be transferred to the general fund. To get to the 68-32 split, Wildem's model changed some 40 GWP expense categories from the traditional across-the-board 75-25 split to various other percentages. The cumulative effect of all these changes is a 68-32 split. To illustrate why I do not trust your consultant, Wildem's use of numbers, I selected 3 of the approximately 40 categories. 3 categories where the split was changed to 50-50, and that change, along with the other changes, resulted in a 68-32 split. They are billing generating expenses, mail operations, customer accounting. On page 6 of the memo containing the model, Wildem shows only 27%, or roughly 36,000 accounts, are for water. The remaining 64%, or roughly 100,000 accounts, are for electric. Thus, Wildem's own data conflicts with the 50-50 split and dictates that water's share of these expenses should not exceed 27%. However, we know that those who are water and electric customers have both bills generated on the same piece of paper, which is put in one envelope with one stamp. If there is perfect overlap of water bills with electric bills, then 36% of the roughly 100,000 electric bills would cover all water bills and should be shared equally by electric and water, each paying 18%. The remaining 64% that only cover electric should be charged entirely to electric. Again, Wildem's own data contradicts the 50-50 split of its model and dictates that water's share of these expenses, depending on the extent of overlap, should be somewhere between 18% and 27%. I first started raising this particular issue over a year ago without ever getting an explanation of the contradiction. At the last 2 council meetings, I was given the impression an explanation would be forthcoming. As of tonight, I've received none. But this is not the only instance of doubt as to the trustworthiness of Wildem's use of numbers. I have several similar problems with the report that is the basis of the water rate hike that you passed last week. But they cannot be as easily laid out in an oral communication format as the one I've laid out tonight. So I give that one tonight as emblematic of a number of such problems. What this demonstrates is, As custodians of this city, you cannot complacently and naively accept what reports are laid before you. You need to work to critically understand them and, even more importantly, be open to a critique of them by citizens who spend the time and expend the effort to carefully analyze them. I will try to try to translate some of the examples from the Wilden report that was the basis of the rate hike that, again, are as baffling as what I've laid out tonight.
Thank you. I don't have any more cards. Comments, Mr. Weaver?
Mr. Zavos, I guess you have not received the letter from our city manager.
I have not received
that I
it.
read today on this topic, right?
I'm sorry?
On this topic.
Yes, specifically on this
I
topic.
read the letter this afternoon. So you'll be getting yours in the mail tomorrow, I presume.
All right, nice.
Oh, so you got the CC already?
Excuse me?
You got the carbon copy?
Yeah.
And
Okay, great.
if I might ask the city manager, it'll address just these three categories in the 50-50
Well, just
split.
really that one category, but I can address that for Mayor
Okay.
Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mr. Zamos. You want to
Sure.
go ahead and address it?
Look at some of those, just for edification, because I had asked this question previously about how many, the tenure that Glendale has with respect to bond issues and how far some of these bond issues go back. As one of the oldest cities in LA County, there have been bonds in Glendale going back to the 20s and even the teens. Cities amortize fixed costs, especially long-term fixed costs, pieces of infrastructure over many years, and bonds oftentimes are appropriate to do that, subject to the dictates of the market and price of money and what have you. With respect to the issue of tickets and citations from Mr. Masihi, I'll be happy to put him in contact with either the traffic engineer, but it sounds more likely like the folks at the PD with respect to citations and moving violations. But if it's a matter of signage, certainly we can have somebody in traffic engineering give him a call. With respect to the issue of hedging, because the speaker who had mentioned hedging and GWP referenced at least a couple of times stocks and bonds in our purchase of stocks, we cannot invest in stocks. The hedging that I think he's referring to is the hedging that goes on in the GWP purchase of fuel, especially natural gas, where we try to use future contracts, the purchase of futures, to hedge against peaks and valleys and what our costs are for the natural gas that turns the turbines, that creates the electricity, that pumps the water. So we do have a regular report that comes out from GWP. It's a public document. I'm sure you can request that from City Clerk's office. Certainly, with respect to Mr. Milano's comments and the utility bills, the GWP electric function does transfer $21 million in this current fiscal year to the general fund. That money goes to the general fund to pay for the general expenses of the city. It's $21 million out of a $170 million budget. Two-thirds of that are police and fire. So at the end of the day, the public is deriving benefit for that. The law allows it. The council has continued to allocate those funds vis-a-vis the budget process. The fixed rate aspect, going entirely or eliminating all fixed costs and going to a variable cost rate, is precisely what we have tried to move away from to provide a steadier stream of revenue. Certainly there's room for disagreement about how to do that. It's obvious, I guess Mr. Milano would rather go to an entirely variable account to give folks who recycle or don't use any water the benefit of not having any kind of charge. That hasn't proven very beneficial to Glendale over the long term in terms of having a sustainable revenue stream to pay for the costs that are there, whether people use the water or the electrical or not. So I think it's just a matter of how we look at filling that particular hole. With respect to Mr. Zavos, and I apologize to him for not getting him the letter sooner. My secretary has been out sick since last Wednesday, and unfortunately she just wasn't feeling very well. And I did end up getting the letter out. You all were CC'd on it. And the long and short of what this particular situation is the cost allocation. It really is as simple as in this particular sliver, as he pointed out, there's accumulation, the cumulative slivers of the cost allocation, indirect cost allocation model all come together to change the split from, I think it was 75-25 to 68-32. And the reason why that happens in this particular sliver is because the costs of the utility, the people, the plant, the systems, and everything else are divided between two basic components of the utility, the water and the power, 50-50. We are going to have people here to do those functions. We are going to have an overhead. We're going to have all those other things. So in this particular cost component, we split it up 50-50. If sewer was not part of Public Works, but rather part of GWP, it would be in this cost component split into thirds. So there's no voodoo with respect to the number of accounts in this particular cost category. It's simply a function of the different cost components of GWP. That one element, coupled with all the other elements that are in that indirect cost allocation, come together to make an aggregate split of 38, or rather 3268. That's the gist of this thing. Now, we can disagree and say, well, that's not the right way to do it. It ought not be done in this particular sliver as basic as that. And we can talk about that. We can agree on that. We can disagree. Or we can agree to disagree. But at the end of the day, that's really what all this is about.
Okay, I also wanted Mr. Zern to talk about the signs as well as preferential parking if the community on that street is willing to go that way.
Right. Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, members of the council, for preferential parking on streets or neighborhoods where they are impacted by outside entities, and a lot of times this occurs where residential areas abut major business districts, or, for instance, Glendale Community College, where you have folks that are coming over and parking in the neighborhood. If that neighborhood gets together and decides that they want to have preferential parking, and you need a great majority, more than a majority, I believe it's 70% of the residents have to be willing to do this, then we'll go through the preferential parking process with you, and we'll give you the instructions on how to gather the petitions and how to submit those petitions, and take it through the Transportation and Parking Commission. And then each home is given permits to park in front of their home or on that street, and you're also given visitor parking passes as well in case you have guests over to your house. But Traffic and Transportation has the guidelines that you'll need to get and start the process, and we'd be happy to give you more details about that and provide you the information as well.
Okay. No, you can. No, the time is over. You can discuss it with Mr. Zern after the meeting's over. It's not over. Mr.
Just a couple points on Mr. Masihi's issues. I think we do need to do something with the large employers, Nestle and all the others along the corridor. They oftentimes have tens, if not hundreds, of unused spaces in their parking structures during the day, and their workers in those buildings, they're not their workers necessarily, but workers in those buildings are taking up the street parking, and there must be some way we can encourage them. Oftentimes we've given them CUPs, et cetera, for their construction, and maybe we can throw this to the Transportation Parking Commission to force them to have a certain level of occupancy in those parking garages. And the easy way to do that, obviously, is by reducing their monthly charges or their fees to park in there, and encourage those workers. I mean, we force them to build these parking structures, but if they're going to set an unrealistic $70, $80 a month parking fee, well, someone wants to save the money, he's going to pick the spots in the neighborhood. So it's not an easy issue to deal with, but maybe we can look and see what sort of opportunities there are. And I know that TPC is chomping at the bit to tackle that and look at that. So if we could do that.
Yeah, Mr. Najarian, it wouldn't be the first time we've gone down this road with them, but you're absolutely right. You see the dilemma where we have charge for parking by the private firm, which we don't have control over, and that drives the employees into the street. So sometimes the only alternative we have is to restrict the parking on the street, which sometimes is throwing the baby out with the bathwater. So, yeah, we'll be happy to re-engage them in that conversation.
And the other issue is for Mr. Masihi or anyone else in the city of Glendale that feels that they've been issued a traffic citation wrongly, unjustly, their remedy is to go before a judge across the street and to state their case and to bring photo. I didn't quite get the issues that he was raising, but involved a no-turn sign that may have been blocked or obscured. These are something that the judges listen to, and they try to be fair in their dealings and their decisions. So don't feel that you are required to just pay the ticket and chalk it up to a point on your license. Feel free to avail yourself of our court system, and not all the time, but many times the judges may see it your way and dismiss your citation. So there is an outlet, there is reprieve, a redress for a ticket that you think is unjustly issued.
Mr. Weaver.
I was going to say that issue on the parking and Nestle's and so on, addressed that some years ago. As far as I could find out, there's no way you can force a private company in their own building to adjust their rates accordingly to keep the people in. The block north of Brand and Glen Oaks, they had come and complained to me that Nestle's people were parking all over the street and the businesses were suffering. Went to staff, and I think there's a 2-hour limit on that street now, which forced the Nestle people, they couldn't come running out of their car every 2 hours. So that freed that area up for the businesses there. So the petition is the way to go on the other streets. But I doubt if we'll ever get any corporation to do what the city wants them to do. They have no obligation to do it. It'll be interesting to see if you can get our commission to force Nestle or any of the others to do it. Yeah, there'll be a compromise.
Okay. Thank you. Have we approached Nestle, their leadership, and
Yes,
talked to them about this?
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, we have in the past. I don't know if it's the current leadership or not.
Okay.
But again,
They should have sufficient parking for their employees.
They do.
They do, but there's a charge for it.
Oh, really?
That's what drives the employees out of
Expensive.
the garage.
In these
because
times,
there's-
they'd rather park
Okay.
outside where it's free.
All right. Thank you. Any other comments?
Move we adjourn.
Do we have any new business? No?
Move we adjourn.
Okay.
Second.
We are adjourned.